Hello, dear friends, with you Naya, with a big delay, but finally we waited for the update of the Ice and Flame mod. It didn't come out exactly as it was announced, and this happened for a number of reasons, among which, in addition to technical problems and lack of resources, the developer complains about the constant pressure from the players. Judge for yourself. The guys are engaged in creating fashion in their personal free time. They share everything, mind you, absolutely for free. It's not surprising that they are already fed up with endless whining about the timing of releases. As a result, we will not see the promised horror queen, her dragon, and a separate dimension in this update. But there is a silver lining. The developer was originally going to switch to the 14th version immediately after the Queen of Horror and her army. But in the end, we got one of the mobs that fans of the 12th version of the main have already lost all hope of seeing, namely Hydra. And, although there is no Queen of Horror in this update, but we can admire her army and even try to fight with her, well, in pursuit of everything, the developers once again introduced a number of fixes. And now let's open the bestiary and see what it says about Hydra. Among the most filthy swamps and quagmires in this world, a multi-headed snake, known as Hydra, lives. Hydra come in 3 colors, 2 of which are almost indistinguishable from each other. They are green, and the third one is so red. She hides in lairs, which she arranges in the hills, under the roots of trees. These lairs often contain the skulls of hapless travelers. You should not approach it if you are not ready to meet the Hydra, because even neither the Cyclops nor the Great Ice Dragon is able to overwhelm this creature. Hydra has extremely poisonous breath and bites, but in addition to this, she also has unique, truly magical regenerative abilities. It is worth tearing off or cutting off one of the heads of the reptile to grow in its place, and the more heads she loses, the more her recovery abilities increase. The Hydra can grow 9 heads, as much as possible. However, no matter how many you chop them off, they will grow back again, unless you affect it with fire. If the head is significantly damaged, it will fall off, and a bloody stump will stick out in its place. But if the creature is not on fire in the next few seconds, then 2 new heads will appear in place of this stump. So the only way to prevent Hydra's forces from constantly increasing in battle is to set it on fire. In the fire, she is not able to grow her heads, and the stumps of the heads will simply burn, and her regenerative abilities will decrease. You can only really kill a Hydra when it has only 1 head left. Hydra can't live with 1 head, so it tries to grow a second one. But if you don't let her do it, she will die. Well, you will get a score called the 12 Exploits of Hercules. By killing the Hydra, you will be able to get what less fortunate travelers have lost. There are chests with various loot in the lair. Well, from the Hydra itself, you can collect quite an interesting piece: its skull, fangs, and sometimes a heart. From the fangs of the Hydra, you can craft special arrows that poison the target. These arrows also take the life out of the victim and heal the shooter who released them. The Heart of Hydra is a rare stone. It is hunted because of the effect that it is able to impose on the owner. If the heart is on a hot panel, it will increase the regenerative abilities of the wearer in various ways, depending on how much health he has lost. The regeneration effect from the 1st to the 4th level can be superimposed on you. Regeneration effect 3 you will get if you lose about half of your life. Well, if it is almost at 0, then the effect of the 4th level will be imposed on you. The effect lasts 45 seconds. The heart does not break from use, so all the difficulties of the battle with Hydra are more than compensated by such a valuable prize. And, of course, this explains why there are so many remains of losers who suffered a fiasco in the Hydra's lair. Well, now let's look at our White Walkers, an army of the living dead, each of which contains the word horror in its name. So, This is what the bestiary writes to us. The forces of filth are imprisoned in the coldest corners of this world. A massive structure called mausoleums keeps these ancient forces under lock and key. Mausoleums are generated in cold biomes and look very impressive from the outside. They are built of indestructible horror stone of various very beautiful textures. So it won't be easy to get in there. However, the forces holding back the ancient evil are beginning to weaken, and at times there are rumors that creatures from other places and times penetrate the walls of mausoleums and prowl the icy wastelands. This phenomenon is quite rare, so do not expect an army of the dead as soon as you enter the cold biome. Most often there are liches of horror necromancers who are able to raise from the dead and call for their protection. Creepy creatures that are not inherent in our world. This is where the chance of a spawn lich is registered in the configs. As you can see, it is very small by default. Even the probability of generating a mausoleum is many times greater. If you are not satisfied with this, then change the probability of spawn to a bigger number. Liches are armed with necromancer staffs, with which they either shoot ice skulls at their opponents or summon terrible creatures, among which they distinguish trolls, ghouls, creatures from cutlers. After the death of the liche, sometimes very rarely, you can find the key that unlocks the mausoleum, but keep in mind that the key is disposable, and with it you can open only one ancient crypt. Also, after killing a lich, you can get his staff, which is better to immediately enchant for strength and repair, because it is very problematic to repair it. Let's now consider the mausoleum. It is made of really unbreakable blocks. At least you won't be able to break them with a pickaxe. So to get inside, you need a key from the lich. Given that this is a rare shotgun, you might want to hit it with a weapon enchanted for loot, but it is possible to do without liches and their keys. However, for this you will need a dragon with his breath. It doesn't matter if it's fiery or icy. Dragons turn the blocks of the mausoleum into ice or ashes, and through them you will be able to cut through into the interior. It is very dark inside the mausoleum, despite the fact that everything is lit by torches. These torches shine with a very dim blue icy light, so it doesn't hurt to take the most ordinary vanilla torches with you. Moreover, there are horror monster spawners at every step. The mausoleum has several floors, many nooks with spawners, chests stuffed with valuable loot, and there is also a dilapidated ice forge. The structure itself is very beautiful, with many different blocks. By the way, looking ahead, I will say that all these blocks can be crafted, and if they are installed by you, then they can be broken and moved, but the mausoleum blocks will not be taken away. However, you can break the spawners and settle in the mausoleum. Probably, it will be especially fun to use it on servers. In this way, you can get a house that is almost impenetrable for players. The only exceptions are the owners of dragons. Now let's look at those monsters that can get out of the mausoleum at us, or that can be raised by liches. Trolls or horror slaves are rather weak, slow skeletons. They, like other creatures summoned by the lich, break out of the ground and are equipped with broken swords and armor that once served them during their lifetime and were buried together with their masters. They look different depending on how many rags are left on them. When killing a troll, his sword may fall out of it. The sword is ugly and, generally speaking, quite pointless. The damage from it is only 5 units, like from a vanilla stone sword. Ghouls of horror are not a flock of dead pigeons, but a kind of zombie with extremely sharp claws, with which they tear the flesh of their victims. Ghouls can be of various sizes, and they are called upon by liches most often after killing various zombies, as well as some other mobs. If the lich and his minions kill the troll, then there is a chance that the necromancer will raise a ghoul of simply gigantic size. Creatures or beasts of terror are animals raised from the dead turned into some kind of wolf-like creatures. They are extremely fast and famously sink their teeth into any living entity they see. There are also revolts of various sizes, from such tiny ones who rebelled after the death of chickens, and such healthy dogs. Dog lovers, you can forget about taming them. However, you can try to put them on a chain and drag them to protect your home. Don't forget to give a suitable name to such a wonderful security guard, but don't get too close to him without protective gear. Scuttlers or horror runners are arthropods raised from the dead, resembling spiders. They are fast and bite hard, and also come in different sizes. For example, these crumbs are obtained from the scales. At first, I didn't even notice them, but they are dangerous because they hit as hard as big spiders, and it's harder to hit them. And in general, the size of the monsters raised by the person does not affect their parameters, such as speed and health, and determines only the appearance. Horsemen or knights of terror. These guys are likely to be fulfilled by themselves, or with some degree of probability arise together with the lich. And although it is their direct duty to protect the difference, nevertheless they are not minions, like all the previous ones, but serve the queen on a par with the liches. They are equipped a little differently, differ in helmets, and the presence of shields. They all have swords, which can sometimes be obtained in the form of a drop. These swords are very good. They have 17 units of damage. Sometimes knights drop their shields with the image of the white skull of horror. Horror riders are real riding maniacs. They ride not only on the horses of terror, but sit on almost everything that has 4 legs, and that you can sit on, whether it's an ordinary horse, a donkey, a mule, a zombie horse, or a skeleton horse, as well as a llama. But the funny thing is that they manage to sit their horror asses, even the knives of guys and baby llamas. However, after sitting on any animals, except the horses of terror, they begin to mercilessly kill similar mounts of their comrades. It is easier to kill a death knight without a horse, because he is quite slow. However, being on horseback, he does not have this drawback. Well, a few words need to be said about the horses of horror. These horses are perhaps the most cute and harmless creatures from the whole army of horror. They are raised by liches from dead horses, as well as mules, flams, and so on. You will not be able to ride the horse of horror, but there is a little trick. If a dead rider sat on a horse, then the horse is considered to be broken. You can put a saddle on it and take it to your place. Dead horses are pretty good. They run quite decently and have good health. Such horses should be treated, as you may have already guessed, with a potion of harm. Well, if you haven't guessed, then don't try to use such a potion on the army of terror during the war with them. But it's better to use a potion of treatment. It will be good for you and bad for them. From all the creatures of horror, after killing them, fragments of horror fall, from which you can craft those very Moselium blocks, as well as torches, which will certainly add an entourage to your buildings. Why else these torches are needed is not yet clear. I have a theory that their icy fire is necessary to open a portal to the dimension of terror. And what do you think about this, my dear friends? Share your ideas in the comments below the video. Horror wood has also been added to the developers. However, there are no trees themselves. Apparently they should grow up in the dimension where the queen is located. So far, wood can be obtained exclusively from the creative. The Queen of Terror herself is not there yet, but the developers have already added her sword and staff. The Queen's sword deals 29 points of damage, and at the moment, it is the most powerful weapon in fashion. It has outstripped even the dragon's steel axe, which deals 27 damage. The staff is useless so far. What it does is not clear. I think maybe he's needed to control the Queen's dragon, which doesn't exist yet. Well, according to tradition, I just have to arrange fights for new mobs. From what else has changed in fashion, now wandering cyclops will appear in the world. They will wander and graze their sheep. This is definitely a nice change. Of the fixes, the following is worth mentioning. Dragons no longer wake up and come to the surface from their underground abodes to arrange an apocalypse for you. The developers corrected the armor disappearing during dragon flights, the problem with the reproduction of dragons, and also eliminated the disappearance of the dragon horn, which manifested itself during the release of the pet from the horn, fixed animation of wings of Amphiptera and hippogriffs while riding them, and also solved the problem of myrmics, who did not want to put the prey in cocoons. Sirens no longer fix the player's gaze on themselves, as it was before. Remember, the sight was very annoying. And there were a number of other fixes that do not make much sense to list. Well, since we're talking about fixes, it's worth mentioning the new bugs that I just came across right off the bat. The first of them is the problem with spawners in mausoleums. For some reason, they turn from normal spawners of horror mobs into spawners of pigs, which, however, do not spawn anything. I also attribute the destruction of the mausoleum walls by dragons to a bug, although this is not accurate. But what is for sure is the unconditional rage of the horror mobs to the armor racks. Well, look for yourself how stupid it looks. By the way, the racks are not destroyed when mobs attack, so at the moment it can be used as a life hack in the war with the undead army. All you have to do is put an army of scarecrows in front of an army of undead, and you can safely go plunder the mausoleum while stupid aces tear up models of soldiers. Believe me, they will be busy for a long time. The bugs include the riding of the Knights of Terror on foals and cubs. In addition, the riders have a problem with riding. It feels like periodically their horses want to go in the wrong direction, where they are directed by the riders, and because of this, they begin to twitch on the spot. And if you turn a lich into a stone, and then hit it with a pickaxe, the lich will disappear, and the staff will remain hanging in the air, and his glowing eyes will hang in the air with it. Through the place where the petrified necromancer was, you can freely pass. However, this tank applies not only to lich, but to almost all mobs, including even dragons. If you hit them with a pickaxe again, then a stone will fall out, and the ghostly eyes will disappear, most likely. This tank will be fixed in one of the following updates. But while it is still in effect, you can use it to decorate some of your buildings or landscapes. For example, to create fear rooms, basements, or fields with will-o'-the-wisps. Well, or just make a beautiful illumination of your home. Well, the update came out great. I personally really liked the horses of horror and the creatures that look like dead wolves. Their models are simply awesome. The textures are also on top. And they also make very beautiful statues. And what did you like most about this release, my dear viewers? And what problems have you encountered? Write your thoughts in the comments under the video. It will be very interesting for me to read. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel